Don't you worry. Colt McCoy will play on Sunday night, and NBC will get what it wanted when it flexed into this game, which is a Colt McCoy revenge game.
Colt McCoy had 100 yards.
Yes.
I don't know if that's winning.
Colt McCoy revenge game. 4 words that 2020 needed to hear. Next up, Brady Quinn revenge game. Let's go. Is there such a thing? Let's bring him in. Kyle Brandt here on the Rich Eisen Show. Is there such a thing as a Spurgeon win revenge game? What do you think?
Well, I think you have to start with the Charlie Fry revenge game.
Yes.
And there's so many to get to. There's a Tim Couch revenge game. There's a help me out here. We have
Charlie Whitehurst.
It's Charlie Whitehurst revenge game.
Yeah.
Jeff Garcia revenge game.
Yep.
Derek Anderson revenge game.
Yep.
It's a fantastic slate of revenge games, starting, of course, on Sunday night on NW and
WBC. Right. How you doing, Kyle? What's going on in your mind, in your world? Everything good?
Happy holidays
Same
and
you.
Happy Chanukah, Rich. It's that time of year. It's great to talk to you.
It is great to talk to you. What was on? I missed this morning's broadcast. What was on your plate today, Kyle?
It's a funny thing you mentioned about the Giants because this is how fickle everything is. I would say 1 week ago on our broadcast, I'm sure, at least in part yours, Rich.
Yes.
Oh, man, everything was coming up Giants and Big Blue, and this is great, and Joe Judge is cracking skulls, and they're going to win, and they're going to pull out this thing. And then about midway through that game, the Giants' so-called bandwagon fell off the table. This was like a season 2 of True Detective. This was like when Hoobastank came out with that "The Reason Is You" song. Everybody just fleeing like rats. Like nobody is on the Giants now. It's all coming up Washington. But I think if Colt McCoy wins the Sunday, it's like, well, the math says we're back. It's a wild time to be a Giants fan.
Well, I mean, the Browns are also a perfect example of it. When they were down by 2 scores, middle of the Monday night game, I'm thinking to myself, well, at least I parsed everything I said about the Browns over the last 5 days is like, well, this may not age well. But I think to take out of that Monday night game is that the Lamar of 2019 arrived in 2020 for the first time. We didn't even see it, and maybe even in week 1 when they boat raced Cleveland, that they arrived, and that Cleveland just, if they come up with a stop here or a stop there, they can put up a whole bunch on you and run all over you.
Yeah,
Kyle,
we saw it the week before with Lamar, but it was Dallas. So it was like DiCaprio and Django, where he says, "You had my curiosity, now you have my attention."
That's right. Yes,
he got our attention this week. And listen, they're going to the playoffs. The Ravens are going to the playoffs. The slate is ridiculous that they have to play. Lamar is totally in and on, and it looks like number 8, the MVP. They're going, and I think Cleveland is going to go with them. Pittsburgh's going. That's going to be when the schedule comes out. We say, what division is going to send 2 teams, 3 teams? I think the North is sending 3 teams. And I said that my takeaway from that game, Rich, when they finally scored and they made the go-ahead kick with Justin Tucker, I think there were 2 seconds left on the clock, and then there were safety shenanigans and whatnot. I think if there were 15 seconds, I think Baker could have gone down and scored again. Like, that's how hot he was. That's how reeling the Ravens defense was. It was truly whoever has the ball last. And I came away that night being like, damn it, Baker Mayfield is good. And you know what? If I could soapbox it just a little bit, Baker Mayfield's a very easy target. He's a number 1 overall pick. He's brash. He's a wise ass. He's in a lot of commercials. It is very easy to knock him down. There are people we both know who have been making their careers the last couple of years on knocking him down. You want followers, you want listeners, just bash Baker Mayfield a while and people will like it. I'm sorry, but he can play. Yes, he threw an interception that night. It was his first one in about 6 weeks. Baker Mayfield is really good, and Baker Mayfield could be sitting here with a playoff win in about a month.
I agree with you. However, I am mandated to have to hold your feet to the fire by saying if the Ravens make it, who doesn't? Because they're right now in the category that, sadly, we're still the only organization that's calling the in the hunt category sniffing it. So right now they're sniffing it. Which team that's currently in as a wild card doesn't make it because the Ravens do? Dolphins or Colts? Which one do you choose there? Or even the Titans if they fall out of it?
The Dolphins had a bad night with the Ravens winning, a very bad night. It's tricky, Rich, because I really believe in Flores, and I'm having a very difficult time saying, you know what? I'm going to ride Phil Rivers. I think he can make it. It's just he's let me down many times before.
Right.
And it's always volatile. He's the perfectly named person. He is like a turgid, roaring river, up and down, up and down. So I have to choose between one of them in this conversation, and I guess I'm going to choose – I think I'm going to have to choose the Colts and just roll the dice with Phillip Rivers because they run and they hit and – look, they got a score to settle in their own division because Tennessee smacked them around for a while, but I still think if I have to choose one, it's going to be the Colts. Miami had a bad night with that Ravens win.
So the Colts make it. You think the Dolphins will be the ones that are on the outside looking in because, you're assuming that they do find the Joe Judge Giants in more of pumpkin mode than carriage mode in Week 16 Baltimore, which is sandwiched in between Jacksonville this week and at Cincinnati to wrap it up. Miami has got New England, Vegas, and Buffalo, and they're at Vegas and at Buffalo. So if, the Ravens do win out, that would mean that Miami loses just one, and they'd be out. That's probably where you'd have to sit right now entering
it's so
Week
fun,
15.
right? And you've got so many plates in the air, Rich, and you're just nailing them, and it's so difficult. But I think the takeaway when you put it like that is that if you're one of these teams that needs Baltimore to lose, let's even include the Raiders in that. They need Baltimore to lose badly.
Yeah.
Who you're rooting for the next 3 weeks? You're rooting for Gardner Minshew, maybe Ryan Finley if he plays, and then maybe Daniel Jones. But I hear as I'm waiting on hold to come in, he's got another injury. Like that is not the 27 Yankees of quarterbacks that you want to come in and win the game for you. It's tough.
Now, Kyle Brandt here on the Rich Eisen Show. Jacksonville has a role to play here. And so many fronts because they're at Baltimore, home for Chicago, at Indianapolis, and all three of those teams still have hopes. They're Indianapolis is the only one currently in a playoff spot. Chicago now suddenly sniffing it in the NFC, and that's where I'd like to land here because Jacksonville also playing a role in who might get Trevor Lawrence as well. And I kind of I knocked on the league's door and found out if the Jets and the Jaguars are both 1-15, and that would not go the Jets' way. It would go Jacksonville's way based on strength of schedule, the way it currently looks, and the way that it most likely would wind up. So that's pretty big.
So hold on, Rich, because I had heard that, and I know it's complicated.
Yes.
And you checked in with the league. If they both end 1-15, Jacksonville gets the number one pick?
It goes to strength of schedule, and whichever team has the easiest strength of schedule would be the ones that gets the first overall pick, because here it would mean that you sucked the worst against the least of competition. It actually counts against you to suck terribly against better competition. It's kind of like, your golf game. You're not supposed to hit a ball hard and for it to go very far. It's counterintuitive here.
Swing easy.
Yeah, right. And so right now, believe it or not, what would count against the Jets, remarkably, when it all comes down to it, is they choose the 1 year to go so bad in the year in which the AFC East suddenly gets much better than it ever was. And that the Jacksonville Jaguars have 4-9 Houston sitting in there, and that leads to their benefit. That's the way it currently looks right now.
See, I find this immediately compelling. I'm all of a sudden into it. Never mind the Packers and Saints and the Chiefs. I like this. Riddle me this.
Yes.
What happens Week 17 if the New York Jets are 0-15?
Yes.
And Bill Belichick surmises that losing to the Jets that day could actually help the Jaguars get Trevor Lawrence, thus keeping him out of the AFC East. Is that not the chess move that Belichick makes with a team that's most likely mathematically eliminated?
Kyle, look, there's many reasons why I think we're simpatico, okay? There's many reasons why I adore having you on this show every single Wednesday. There's many different ways that you being a Princeton man and me going to the Ivy of the Midwest known as Michigan, that we're lockstep. We actually have been talking about this very moment
I love it.
For days. As a matter of fact, we had Tom Curran of NBC Sports Boston. When we gave that concept to him, ask him what Belichick would do, what did he call that, Chris? He said he was writing it down because it's
a talker.
That's what he said. It's a talker.
It's a talker.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because it would run completely, let's talk about counterintuitive, completely against Bill Belichick to lay back in any way, shape, or form, let alone against the Jets. Part of me thinks that he would love to stick the Jets with the ignominy of an 0-16, that they would join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the 70s and the Lions and the Browns of the aughts and teens, that he would love to stick them with that. But if it means no Trevor Lawrence in his division, that's a talker, which we're talking about right now.
It's great. It's not occurred to me. You guys are ahead of me on this, and that's the perfect person to ask in Curran. I just feel like you don't need the brilliant Ernie Adams somewhere in the catacombs of Foxborough, New England, coming up with new ideas and rules for Belichick, as he has been for years on bread and water in the laboratory down there. This one's an obvious one. My question is, if Belichick were to elect this strategy to say, look, I could pin him 0-16, sure, that'd be fine. Bunch of people have gone 0-16 before. You just named him, Rich. And nobody ever lost out on Trevor Lawrence. This is the art of war stuff. I'd rather have them win and in winning lose. I wonder how far he would go with that. Are we going to see Stidham week 17? Are we going to see a practice squad player? How much could he get away with? This is the game of the season as far as I'm concerned.
Wildcat.
Yeah, could go Wildcat.
Sure, why not?
Like Power Eye Wing T. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
But then do the Jets return fire? And do they start?
They're not smart enough.
People on every play.
They're not smart enough to return fire.
We'll
Kyle.
know something's up when we'll know something's up when Belichick says we need to see what we have in Brian Hoyer. That's when we'll smell a rat.
I love it.
Kyle Brandt here on the Rich Eisen Show, and we just talked about next level chicanery potentially to try and keep a team from successfully tanking. Let's talk about you as a Bears hunk, sir.
Okay.
This past week, seeing Trubisky look the way that he looked, and against Deshaun Watson, of all people. Okay, obviously it's a Texans defense, but with Deshaun Watson in the building and the Bears defense taking care of him, do you think this is the future, or would you say it's a mirage and you would prefer the Bears to just keep on losing so a house gets cleaned? What do you think, Kyle?
I remember vividly our conversation in September when you were on one, as the kids say, Rich, about the short leash that was on Mitch Trubisky by Matt Nagy.
Yes.
And we joked that it was like one of those handheld retractable leashes with, the blue bag of crap on the bottom of it. It was like a real taut leash that he had on him. And it's so unbelievably complicated because that was the right move to pull him that day. It was the right, because Nick Foles coming to beat the Falcons and everything looked great. Then Nick Foles was terrible for what felt like interminably about 2 years. And now Mitch, who is a master of avoiding the breakup. It is the person, the boyfriend you're just about to break up with, and all of a sudden you got a candlelight dinner and you've hired Yanni to play next to the table. Like, he knows how to be unfireable. And so to your question, my roundabout way of answering it is,
yes.
I love Mitch. I've seen enough of Mitch. I am not going to take a couple nice throws down Robinson against the Houston Texans and say, 1 more year or 5 more years. No, I think we've made our bed with Mitch, and I think we've already slept in it. It's been terrible, restless sleep. I think it is time to move on. I'm not ready for Mitch in 2021.
So Bears Vikings. I mean, it's on, right? I mean, they're both sniffing it at 6 and 7. This is a big football game. And then, of course, the end of the season against Green Bay, there's that game against Jacksonville. As we mentioned, Jacksonville's going to play a large role here. They're going to look good against Jacksonville. And then here we go. I mean, so you're not thinking that the Bears could actually sneak in at 7, make some hay, maybe, do something against the Rams potentially, similar to what we saw, in the regular season a couple years ago when the double doink hit and all of that business. I mean, you don't want to see that? You don't want to be all in on that?
How dare you utter the words double doink, Rich? We just had to go through the Cody Parkey experience
we saw it
on national television.
I know.
For Cleveland, from which he missed 2 more kicks.
I know. He's kicking like he wanted to get.
Today Show
that's about to say he wanted to get back on the Today Show. He missed it.
Yeah, that's what you do after you miss a kick. That's time and place. He double doinked both of those too. Listen, the Chicago Bears lost 6 games in a row. Baby steps. I know this is the season of miracles right now, but Rich, and I love that your voice starts to rise when you say win another one and another one, then get in. when I need a little more. I'm not going to sit here and do backflips because they beat the Texans. The Texans are terrible. No, I'm not going to do it, and I don't think they will do it. I'm not going to BS you because I'm born in the Chicago suburbs. No, I never do that. I'm very, very jaded when it comes to 2020 Bears. Sure, I'd love to see it. Don't expect to.
Kyle Brandt, before we let Kyle Brandt go, the poll question, Christopher, ask him. This is a good one today. Chris, ask him the poll question.
It's important. It's the most important question you'll answer today, Kyle. Okay. It's the 26th anniversary of Dumb and Dumber's release.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
What's the best Farrelly Brothers movie? Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, Something About Mary.
Oh, my God, what a good question. Summer of 1998, I am 19 years old and a college freshman. I went to see a movie called There's Something About Mary.
Go, baby.
And it is when they reveal the pieces of flesh that were in the zipper, they do a whole scene and then show it. It is by far the hardest I've ever laughed inside a cinema. I left my chair. I was on my knees on that disgusting sticky floor with all the concessions. And I got to tell you, the second hardest I've ever laughed in a theater, Cameron Diaz, is that hair gel? That's the second. So the Farrelly Brothers in one movie have the two biggest guffaws I have ever had in a theater. And I love those other movies. Don't sleep on Kingpin. The Woody Harrelson saying, I took the care of liberty milking your cow for you. She sure is a stubborn one. We don't have a cow. You know the punchline. Unbelievable movie. But my answer, with respect to Lloyd Christmas and Harry Dunn,
yes,
is There's Something About Mary. Changed the whole game.
You know what? And then we didn't even talk about Chris Elliott in that, in his role in that film. Obviously, Ben Stiller and then Brett Favre. Apparently, the Farrelly Brothers will say they try to get Steve Young, right? They try to get Steve Young to
Drew
do
Bledsoe,
it.
too.
Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah.
I think there was a big, huge fight that involved Bledsoe or something like that.
They were at a concert, supposedly, and Drew got injured or something when he wasn't supposed to be there.
I know, and so, Favre kind of had the Brady role, right? Because Bledsoe couldn't answer the bell. I mean, they were telling that whole story. And I'll just remember Cameron Diaz, when she showed up on the screen for the first time, that was the end of that, pretty much. And I remember, too, also, I was on SportsCenter year 2 for me back in 1998, and when she said, on the date that, can't we just go watch SportsCenter, the whole newsroom came back in the next day, and we're like, did you hear what Cameron Diaz said in Something About Mary? All that said, though, Kyle, I voted for Kingpin.
Kingpin's great.
Oh my God,
that movie. Favorite moment, Rich?
From Kingpin.
Yeah. When
Bigger and McCracken and his comb over got that much worse, and they just cut to the cutaway of Bill Murray's his comb over. Just so that's the end. Honestly, just that one shot of Bigger
is above the law.
One of the greatest characters in movie history.
He wins $1 million and he says, "I now have enough money to buy my way out of anything." And talk about
one more title, sweetness.
Talk about the piece of sports memorabilia from a movie you'd want: the bowling ball with the rose in the middle.
Come on,
that gorgeous rose in it.
Come on.
And then,
and I wouldn't sneeze at Roy Munson's plastic hand either. I mean, that thing's with the Iowa State championship ring on it, no less.
Oh my God, Kyle, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Your
it's
podcast,
so much fun.
Your podcast available on Spotify and Ringer. The first several episodes sitting right there. When do you come back with a new episode on next year in Wednesday?
We're strategizing about that, Rich. I think right in the heart of the National Football League playoffs in mid-January, we're lining up contestants, and season 2 is going to be very, very fun. It's a game show. It's a talk show. It's everything Rich likes, I like. It's really fun.
I love it. Kyle, appreciate the time. We'll chat next Wednesday as well. And we'll see you on Good Morning Football and the rest of the gang tomorrow and every single weekday at 7 Eastern time on NFL Network. Thanks for the time, Kyle. Just great.
We'll get Munson out in the middle of nowhere, Rich.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
There you go. It's Kyle Brandt. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.